Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lindsey Simsick.
And I'm Krista Williams.
Welcome to the New Paradigm Digital Workshop Series by Almost 30. Congrats. Investing in yourself is a huge deal.
Yeah, and we want you to get the most out of your experience. So we have a few guidelines that we suggest so that you really get the value for your money. One of them is telling all of your roommates, family members, partners, pets that you're going to be investing the next few hours within this workshop. We want you to not be distracted. We want you to not be interrupted. So really make sure that you're creating the container and intention that this is your time. We also want you to be comfortable. We are huge fans of being comfortable in comfortable clothes all day. So nothing should be different for us, but we want you guys to be seated in a blanket with a sweatshirt on, however you're going to feel most comfortable. Have some water next to you, have a journal so you can write down everything that's important that you're going to get from this time. Also, please note that we did do this live, so there's conversations about the chat, the people within the workshop. So those things aren't going to relate to the workshop experience that you're having, but this is minimal, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and I would say after this workshop too, give yourself time to integrate. Don't rush into anything right away. Give yourself time to really absorb what you heard, what came up for you, maybe journal, and just give yourself time to rest. But we really hope you enjoyed this workshop, and if you do, we have more where that came from. So you can visit shopalmost30.com for more New Paradigm Digital Workshop Series offerings.
Enjoy.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our New Paradigm Digital Workshop Series. How's everyone doing? I see you in the chat, but let us know how you're feeling. Only the truth. We're so excited to have you. I'm Lindsey, and I'm joined by Krista here. We are the hosts and founders of Almost 30, a podcast community, and it's just been the coolest thing to be able to learn right along with you. And because of everything going on in the world with quarantine and COVID, it's been cool to take what we normally do in person virtually. So thank you for being here. It's going to be a really beautiful, intimate night with our dear friend Danika. We'll bring her on in a moment. But we'd love to hear from you in the chat first. Make sure you're using the chat all night to ask questions, to reaffirm how you're feeling and what you've learned, and to just support one another. Beautiful. I love it. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. If this is your first time on Zoom, lucky you, but I assume that most of you have been on Zoom a lot. And this is a webinar, so you'll be using the chat for most of the communication during the webinar. There will be polls that will pop up randomly, be fun to interact and just get an idea of who's here and where you're at. And then at the end, we'll be using the Q&A feature to ask questions. So if you do ask questions during the workshop, we just ask that you put them into the Q&A so that we can ask them at the end. Before just moving forward, we always like to set the space after the housekeeping business. It's really setting a safe container for us all to just open up, be ourselves, learn, and grow. So if you wouldn't mind joining me wherever you are in the world, just finding a comfortable seat, sitting up nice and tall, maybe rolling your shoulders back and down, and as you do, just closing your eyes for a moment and just noticing your breath. And if there's a part of your body that needs just a little bit extra support and love today, maybe it's your lower belly, maybe it's your heart, maybe it's your head, just place one hand in that place. And we're just going to use the breath to bring us back to this moment. I'm sure we have things to do tomorrow and some things that happened today that we wish we could have done better or gotten done, but we're here now. And it's this breath that I hope just reminds you that you are the ultimate creator, that you create your experience, that you have that power, that you have the final say, that you truly make the rules of your life. And in this workshop tonight, using self-care to create beautiful rituals, to honor yourself, to set yourself up for not only success, but to be able to give more to the world and to other people and to yourself. Taking 2 more deep breaths into that space in your body that needs it the most, in the nose and out the mouth. And 1 more, and on the exhale, just make it audible. Inhale. Beautiful. And this container is just a safe space where you can truly be yourself, where you can express yourself and connect with others, where you can learn, ask any questions you'd like. And we just ask that this container is protected, that we are here for just the highest good of all. We invite all of our highest selves to this Zoom webinar tonight. And so it is. All right, y'all. Space
Beautiful.
is set.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for coming. Happy birthday, Lauren. We got a birthday in the house. So excited to have you. I love that so much. We are celebrating you over here. I'm Krista, and I am Lindsey's co-host, and I'm just really grateful for you guys to be here tonight. I've been looking forward to this all week. Lindsey and I started the New Paradigm digital series when everything happened with quarantine. So we were supposed to go on tour. We were supposed to do all these in-person events, and we know how powerful it is coming together in community. So we didn't want that to end. So we decided to create these amazing containers like we have here with digital events throughout quarantine. So we've been talking about a bunch of different topics, but self-care and optimal living and really figuring out the right systems and processes to let you live your best life is definitely one of those beautiful topics. And when we did the series, we knew we wanted Danika Brysha, our dear friend, to be one of those people in our series. So Danika, we've known for years. She was probably one of our first guests on the podcast, maybe first 10 or 20 episodes. And I remember Lindsey and I were in the studio, and I was like, oh, this is big. Like, she's amazing. Like, she does all these things, blah, blah, blah. And I was just so almost like awestruck by her. And then she came into our studio that we were renting at the time and just blew us away with how heart-centered and kind and thoughtful she is. She's really just such a genuine person, and we are so grateful to know her. And through the years, we've followed her around on Brunch Series tour. We've always tried to find as many ways as possible to do stuff together, just because we know she has her heart in the right place, and she's really someone that practices what she preaches. She's the real deal. So she is a given for us in this series. Tonight, we're going to be talking about self-care. She is the self-care queen. She does Self-Care Society, which is new and amazing. Self-Care Society looks unreal. I can't wait for her to tell us about it. And we're going to be talking about the systems of accountability and consistency that we can use with self-care to create great habits, transform your mindset and your life, and really just like bring us back to these practices that can really change our lives over the next couple months. For me, personally, I've kind of fallen off a little bit. I don't know if anyone else has fallen off a little bit in quarantine, just doing all of the good things, practicing self-care in the best way. I feel like I've kind of lost my footing. So tonight is my recommitment to my self-care, and I'm really looking forward to this. So let's take a deep breath before we welcome Danika in. And the way it's going to go tonight is we're going to have Danika come on. We'll have a break in between, so you guys will get a little bit of a break. We can grab water, go to the restroom, take a breather, stretch a little bit, come back. We'll have more of our session, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So we can have a super conversational, beautiful Q&A with Danika, Lindsey, and I, and just really dig in. It's really beautiful. The people that we have here tonight, I feel close to you guys already. So let's welcome in Danika Brysha, the self-care queen.
Hi, hello.
Oh my gosh, sweater weather. How?
It's actually not sweater weather, but I'm pretending
I was gonna say, I'm like, I know where you are.
air conditioning weather. And no, you know, I wanted to wear my girl power sweater today
I
because
love it.
I rented it from Rent the Runway.
Rent
And
the Runway is the best.
you know, the elephant in the room, there is a large, for those US based people, thing going on in politics tonight. And I really just want to celebrate that so many of you chose to be here, and chose intentional consumption. It doesn't mean we, you know, we don't participate, but it means that we're really cautious and intentional about how we take care of ourselves so that we can handle whatever the world throws at us. And the world has been throwing a lot at us this year. So, you know, I'm just grateful. Thank you for that introduction. Lindsey and Krista, you have been, both of you have just been such supporters and cheerleaders. I can't believe like that was that early on that we did the podcast together, because you were both so professional. I was like, I didn't even been on a podcast, and they had a fancy studio. Like, I don't think I've been to many studios, and that was your first, that was early. So no wonder you're so successful. You two have been such supporters, and I'm so grateful. And thank you for creating the space for this conversation tonight. I'm so excited. So.
We're so glad to have you.
I'm gonna go on mute.
That studio was we basically broke into it every week. Like, it really was.
Yeah, honestly,
like,
it's so professional, but it was a really weird situation that we could talk about another time.
Make it till you make it, baby.
I know it well. I know it well. Well, thank you for having me. Shall we jump in?
Let's jump in.
Yes.
Thank you all. Make sure you have your notebooks ready and you're in a quiet space. These 2 hours are for you. So congratulations for choosing you. And take it away, Danika.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for making this time. Like I said, I know that right now, especially making time for self-care on top of everything that we're juggling, on top of sort of collective trauma that our world is experiencing, is not always easy. So I just want to honor you. Lauren, happy birthday. What a true gift that you've decided to spend it with us. And thank you. So I have a lot of exciting stuff planned today. And, you know, this workshop is meant to be sort of, you know, of course, educational, but I'm also a really big advocate for action and implementation, because I've found, after working with thousands of people on self-care, that the missing link is not so much that we don't know what to do, it's that we don't have systems and community and tools to stay accountable, and to do that without overwhelm and stress. We overcommit, we burn ourselves out, we end up in more shame and guilt than when we started. And so I hope you'll appreciate that I have a very gentle approach to this, because I think we have to. And so what we're going to be doing today, we've got a lot going on, but I want to start with a couple questions, a couple poll questions to get a feel for everyone here. As Lindsey said earlier, safe space, please answer honestly. If I ever ask you how you're doing, I want you to answer that authentically. And I want to start with a couple questions. So our poll questions are, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your consistency with your own self-care? So on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your consistency with your own self-care? All right. The second, at the current moment, which of these words, oh, we had our results here first. Okay, great. So what is self-care? Okay, so no one's feeling totally lost on self-care. Once a quarter, I try to do something good for myself. Great. Most people fall in this: when my week gets crazy, I know I need to take time for self-care, usually once a week. I try my best to incorporate it every day. We have a few people doing that. Great. And every day with no fail, we have one person doing that. So that is awesome. Wonderful. Beautiful, beautiful. And I assume that most people would fall in the middle there. So we're definitely going to talk about that, and the idea that self-care takes time, because it actually makes time. So we'll get there. So the second question I had is, at the current moment, which of these words describes how you're feeling most often? So there's a selection of words here. There's other at the bottom if none of those really resonate, but overwhelmed, anxious, excited, expansive, sad, abundant, hopeful, scared, peaceful. And I fully acknowledge that we are human beings and we have a wide range of emotions occurring at all times. But if you could pick one that sort of feels most prominent, what would that be? Lauren said, I've admittedly been super slacking lately, and that's totally okay. It's so easy to do right now. It's so easy to do. All right, overwhelmed. That would have been mine too. So I'm glad I'm not alone. Excited, expansive, sad, hopeful, scared. Yeah, a mixture. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for answering honestly. And my last question is, where do you struggle most with self-care? Is it that you feel like you don't have time, that you don't know what to do or where to start? Are you feeling unsupported? Are you feeling like it's too expensive? Or are you feeling like you have more important things to do? And wherever you are is perfectly okay. All right. I feel like I don't have time. I thought that might be the one we see the most of. Awesome. I don't know what to do, where to start. I feel unsupportive. I have more important things to do. Great. Awesome. So that gives us a good start to what we're going to be doing today. One thing I wanted to mention, if you are open to it, is to please set your chat to all panelists and attendees. There's a little, it defaults to all panelists, but what that means is that only I can see it. And I'm very community driven. I think that self-care and community care are very important together. And so if you're feeling open to it, please set your chat to all panelists and attendees so that when you do share, or if you do ask questions or anything like that, that everyone can see it and not just me. We are all here to learn from each other and grow from each other. I always call myself a guide because I'm just feel like I'm guiding and holding space for open conversation versus a coach or whatever it is. So anywho, let's get started. I actually have a presentation for you. Oh, you know what? Let me see. Am I able to share my screen? Ladies, do you know if I can share? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see me and my PowerPoint. Can you please confirm in the chat that you can see me and you can see what I'm sharing? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, Anna, Krista, Blake, Krista. Awesome. Thank you, Reese. Wonderful. Okay. So for the first half of this workshop, we're going to talk sort of about self-care basics. We're going to talk about the overview, the thought process behind it, a lot of the common challenges that people find when they're practicing self-care. And we're going to do two of my all-time most impactful and favorite exercises. So that's going to be really fun. We'll do a visualization and then we'll do another activity. So what I want to start with is talking about what self-care is. So self-care is the essential practice of caring for ourselves first. In doing so, it allows us to give fully to others as a result. We can only give that which we have. And if you're like me, or you're like many of the women that I work with, we tend to skew towards give, 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 take care of everyone else, and leave nothing for ourselves at the end. And if we don't fill up our cup, we have nothing to pour. So the more we take care of ourselves, the more we can give to the people that we love, and as well as our dreams for where we want to go in life. So the idea behind self-care is that it helps us not just survive, but it helps us to thrive. And the other element of it, which I'll touch on really quickly, is community care. And I think you're going to see a lot more about this. This is a concept that I just recently learned about. Of course, I knew about community and I knew about how communities care for each other, but really thinking of community care in this context of self-care. And how do we communicate with each other? How do we interact with each other? How do we support one another? How do we ask for support? How do we receive support? How do we give support? And it is so important. So in today's workshop, we're going to learn a few things. So the title of this workshop is Self-Care for Optimal Living. So while we are going to learn the basics and do some exercises, the second half of our workshop today is all of my systems that have changed my life in terms of the accountability. If I have noticed anything, it is that we live in this time where there is so much knowledge and we keep getting stuck between knowledge and action. And we need something to bridge that gap, because what happens when we have knowledge, when you learn something new, or your mind is filled with ideas, or you know what you want to do and we're not doing them, is we end up in more shame and guilt than when we started. And unfortunately, it tends to work against us. So what we're going to learn in this workshop today, we'll talk basics. So what is self-care and why should we practice it? We're going to talk about the challenges, so the common obstacles that hinder self-love and self-care. We're going to talk about the foundation. So these are my foundational 4 things, the most important pillars of self-care that I believe we should all start with, because they feed into the deeper realms and the deeper layers. We're going to talk about vision. So it's really important as we create our self-care routines and we create our day-to-day life, that we know where we're going. Where do we want to go? So I'm going to have an activity that'll really help you with that. And then, of course, we're going to talk about systems. So that's all about staying accountable. We're going to talk about time management, and I'll show you my calendar and how I time block and do those things and really accommodate self-care and wellness within. I'm going to show you how I use a project management tool. I would use one called Asana, but you can use whatever you want. I'm just going to show you an overview with how I use it to manage the minutia of the day-to-day. And the reason that I do this is because I believe deeply in delegating to technology wherever possible. The less I have to remember, the more free space I have to invite in new ideas. I'm a big, big believer that we cannot elevate to that next level of life if we have no space, if we're flailing at this level. And so while you may have found yourself, looking for, okay, what's next for me? I want this new job, or I want to launch my business, or I want to take things to the next level. But if your foundation is not in place, if yourself, your body, your physical vessel is not conditioned and prepared for it, the infrastructure is not there, the universe is not going to give us anything more. So this is where we start. So this idea of filling your cup first, maybe you've heard of it. It's similar to this idea of putting your oxygen mask on first before your child, right? So I want to remind you to stop giving yourself and your loved ones the backwash. The goal is not to give from our full cup every day. The goal is to overflow our cup and give from the overflow. So your goal is to get to this middle cup right here and figure out, what are the things that it takes me? What does my self-care routine take to get me not just full, but to overflow? And all day I get to give from my overflow to people, to things that need me. And I get to end my day here, or maybe even here sometimes, that's okay. Or maybe even here sometimes. But what I would beg to argue is that many of us are actually ending our day in the backwash. And typically the people that we connect with at the end of the day are the ones we say we love the most. It's our children, it's our partners, it's ourselves, it's our family, it's our friends. And we're giving them the backwash. So I really want you to think about that and imagine, you can envision a cup. And if you were to draw little lines like a measuring cup on it, and you said, okay, I know that when I get enough sleep, I get to this notch. And I know that when I meditate, I get to this notch. And I know that when I move my body, I get here. And it's what is your recipe for abundance? What is your recipe for overflow? So you can always remember the cup. Now, we all know the story of the 3 little pigs. And I thought this was really cute. They're so dirty and sweet. But I want to ask, what are you going to build your house with? And when I say your house, I mean your vessel. What will you build your house with? And what I mean by this is, like I was saying before, this idea that if we can build a firm foundation in ourselves, and we can learn to come home to ourselves, and we can learn to use our emotions to guide us, then no matter what happens in the physical world outside of us, we're not shaken. And so we know the story of the 3 little pigs when, they've built their houses with various certain things, and, we know how that ends, right? The one that built the sturdy foundation was able to resist the storms. And self-care is the same way. It's building a sturdy foundation so that we can, withstand the storms, whatever comes along. So I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about who I am and why I'm talking about self-care. And how this came to be, because I wasn't always someone who practiced self-care. So today I am a business owner. I own 3 businesses: Self-Care Society, Model Meals, and Danika Brysha Inc. I'm a model with IMG Models. So I model for brands like Old Navy and Bare Minerals. And I've been a plus size model for a decade now, which has been a really beautiful journey of body positivity and self-love. And then I work as a self-care coach, a self-care guide. So I lead workshops and classes and help people create self-care routines that really serve them. But most of my life, I didn't care for myself in this way. And this was not my identity. This was just a dream. It was a pipe dream for me. So I want to tell you a little bit about how self-care came about in my life. So I thought I'd bring some fun pictures here to guide this story. So I grew up sort of a bigger girl. I really struggled with body and food. I struggled severely with bulimia and drugs and alcohol, and spent a lot of my life with very, very little self-worth. And that little self-worth led to very little self-care, because we care for things that we feel are worth loving, right? And so if you're struggling with self-worth, and we're going to talk a little bit about the connection between self-love and self-worth, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I was living for what other people thought about me. If you asked me how I was feeling, I would look around at my physical circumstances and I would tell you how I was feeling based on how I thought I should feel. And so, I struggled with disordered eating, and I was chronically dieting and all of these things. And finally got to a point when I was after college, and I had had enough. I had just had enough of abusing my body and abusing myself and feeling so little self-worth. And I decided to stop dieting. I decided to surrender. I had had this lifelong dream of becoming a model. I had spent my whole life trying to lose weight, thinking that maybe one day I could do that. If I could just lose weight, maybe I could be a model. And when I surrendered, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, I surrendered. And probably about 2 months after this moment of surrender, I'm not dieting anymore. I'm going to let myself settle in my shape. I'm about 200 pounds. I'm 5'10", size 12, 14. I got approached by some modeling agents at a bank and signed with the modeling agency, and my career took off pretty quickly. And so it was really a journey for me towards self-love. It was probably the first time that I really, started moving towards self-love and actually starting accepting my body and myself. And I decided I was going to make the move to New York City. And I had signed with Wilhelmina Models out there at the time. And so moved to New York. And when I moved to New York, I found something called the Whole 30. And I did the Whole 30. And I went into it, I think, for weight loss still at that time. But I came out of it a different person. And what I learned in 30 days from changing what I was putting in my body and getting sober was that I had an incredible power, and everyone has an incredible power, to transform their lives, and quite quickly. And so I was so empowered by 30 days and what it did for my life that I just wanted to keep going. So I started meditating and I started journaling, and I started gradually, month by month, incorporating new small habits until my whole lifestyle changed. And so I lost weight through this journey of self-care, and I lost weight and I lost all my modeling jobs. So I went from 6 figures modeling to nothing overnight. And I ended up needing to move in with my parents into their garage. I was almost 30 years old. So I moved back from New York City. I felt like my dreams were crushed. I felt hopeless. Moved into my parents' garage, which is the second picture right here, is my mom's Toyota in the back. But I had started a little business in New York City, called it Model Meals. I was cooking for people these meals that I was loving and serving them. And so I moved back, and I spent 2 years living in this garage. And during this time is when I developed something called my self-care checklist, which we're going to talk about, and you're actually going to learn about building today. During this time, I was in some ways thriving. I was excited about life. I was optimistic, but in a lot of ways I was struggling. I was nearly 6 figures in debt. I was living in my parents' garage when I was almost 30 years old. I was lost in terms of my career, and I was struggling deeply with binge eating. So I was eating like 10,000 calories a night in one sitting and really struggling with that. And I remember one of those nights where you kind of just have the come to Jesus moment, and you sort of just pause, and all you can do is pray. When you're struggling, you're going through it, and you feel like, the only thing left to do is pray. And I did. And I got clarity the next day. And what I realized was I started thinking about what would it take for me to get to the end of the day and not binge. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, I know that when I, eat, like nourish my body in a specific way, I feel better. And I know that when I get enough sleep, I definitely am less likely to binge. And I know that when I move my body in some way, I'm definitely less likely. I feel healthier. I make better choices. And I know that when I'm mindful, so either when I meditate or I journal, I know that's really important for me. And so I made a checklist, and I called it my self-care checklist. And I put these 4 things on a piece of paper, and I checked the boxes, and it worked. And I made it to the end of the day without binging. So I thought I'd try it the next day. And I realized that the thing that had been missing all along for me, it wasn't that I didn't know what to do, it was that I had no systems to stay accountable to these things. So I called it my self-care checklist, and little by little, the self-care checklist grew into something much, much bigger. And I was sitting in my parents' garage right here, and I was writing affirmations. I am rich. Money flows to me faster than I can keep track of. Granted, still 6 figures in debt, still living in the garage. And I was writing biographies from my future. Danika Brysha is a wellness entrepreneur. She's a thought leader and speaker. She's happy, healthy, whatever. And I was reprogramming my mind. And so I kept building on the self-care checklist. And this was about 6 years ago. And I've been using the self-care checklist in some capacity for the last 6 years, and it has completely transformed my life. I rebuilt my modeling career. I've built a few companies I'm super proud of. And more than anything like that, I have peace. I have peace around food. I have peace around my life. I have deep self-love. I have self-care that isn't overwhelming. I have self-care that empowers me. And so I want to share a little tidbit of a self-care checklist. So this is sort of developed. This is from Self-Care Society, but we're going to teach you how to make one your own. You can use this if you'd like. We'll talk a little bit more about it in our systems. But I want to remind you that a great life is just a series of great days. So when I was in New York, and I was living in New York, and I was really struggling with food, I was in the Overeaters Anonymous program, which is a program for people who have addiction with food. So just like AA, but for food. And I remember they would always tell me that our life is just a series, like it's just about getting to tomorrow. Stay in today. You don't need to worry about tomorrow. Let's stay in today. Let's get to this, have a sober day, right? And it reminded me, and it made me think about the fact that we are all out here just looking to build a great life. We want a great life. We want to be happy. I know Danielle Laporte, I think, was on the podcast really recently, and she's incredible. And she talks always about base your to-dos and your desire list on how you want to feel. And I think ultimately we all just want to feel good. We want to feel happy. You want to feel great. We want to feel impactful. And so instead of sitting here and being like, okay, calculating how am I going to build this great life? What if instead we just looked at what is a recipe for a great day? What is a recipe for a great day? And that was essentially what I did with my self-care checklist. So I'm going to ask you right now, if you were to just think about it right now, what is a recipe for you? What are a few things that you know if you do them, you'll have a better day? And you can just share in the chat, make sure you're set to all panelists and attendees so everyone can share your wisdom. What are some exercises? What are some things that you can do that you know will have a good day? Krista, meditation. Yes. Jessica, movement, spiritual practice. Beautiful. Jen said movement, Frenchie snuggles, breakfast. Yes. Reese, meditating, movement. Great. Healing in Hindsight said journaling or doing my to-do list before I start the day helps me get my thoughts out of my head so I can focus. Amazing. Hi, Anna. Anna said water, taking a walk in nature. Reese said kale. I love it. Jordan, early morning run, morning pages, clean house. Yes. Singing in the shower. Movement of any form, 30 minutes of reading. All right. So y'all are pros. So all these things that you have just shared are things you would throw on your checklist. So if you even want to do that now in your notebook, maybe put a checkbox and write down a few of these things that you just listed so that we have them there for later when we build your first one. So a few of those things. Ashley said bath, meditation, taking a walk, dancing, laughing with my kids. Yes. Jen said some loving if available. Hell yes. Yes, yes, yes. Pleasure. So these are all ideas. And this is where you would start with the self-care checklist. I always tell people to actually just start by writing down what you're already doing and getting in the habit of checking it off. I am all about empowerment and micro habits. And we'll talk a little bit more about micro habits shortly here, but micro habits are all about tiny little wins that have macro impact. So things that don't feel overwhelming. I'm talking 5 minutes of moving your body, 10 minutes of meditating, 1 minute of stretching. And we'll talk a little bit about it in a second. Lauren said a break from technology and practicing being present. So important. I know we're on screen so much now. I really appreciate you being on a screen for this workshop. I hope that all these tools are going to help you to take these away. Maybe you put in your AirPods, listen to almost 30 podcasts, and you can do some self-care while you do that without being in front of a screen. So beautiful. Great job. So let's talk about some of the common reasons that self-care might slip. So I have worked, like I said, with thousands of people. I did a tour in 2018. We worked with 2,000 women all across the country. We lived in an RV. My partner is a chef, so he went with me. We lived in an RV for months. We got to see Krista and Lindsey in Boston, I believe. It was super fun. And it was wonderful. And I learned a lot and I've just learned so much through speaking to other people about self-care. So I want to touch on some of these common challenges because I hear these a lot. So thinking self-care is selfish. Self-care is actually the least selfish thing that you can do for the people you love. I think we can all agree that when we take care of ourselves, when we've had enough sleep, when we're eating in a way that fuels us, when we are not stressed out left and right, we are a better person to anyone we interact with. Am I right? Do you see that? Have you experienced that? It is the least selfish thing that we can do for the people we love. Yes. Yes. So I really want you to, if nothing else, I really want you to reprogram your thinking to realize that it's actually selfish to not practice self-care. That's it. It's selfish if we do not take time to take care of us, because we are then spewing negative energy, stressed out energy, resentment energy onto the people around us. And usually it's the people we love the most. So I want you to keep that in mind. The second thing, and we saw this a little bit at the beginning in our poll at the beginning of our workshop, and this is the idea that we don't have time. And I know we have so many things battling for our attention, and I know we have so many things on our plate, but remember this, self-care does not take time. It makes time. Self-care doesn't take time, it makes time. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the fact that when we practice self-care, even if it's 15 minutes, we are wildly more efficient. We are wildly more productive. We make choices that we don't have to clean up later because we're in our bodies and we're aligned, right? We show up as the version of ourselves that we're proud of. We don't have to do damage control. We don't have to apologize. We don't work, not do self-care, and then binge on alcohol or food at night and numb out for 3 hours because we didn't release some of the stress during the day. So if I can get you to remember another thing, it's that self-care does not take time, it makes time. I can assure you that if you take 30 minutes to an hour for self-care each day, or even if it's 5 minutes and that's what you got, that's fine, that you will earn that time back in your efficiency, in your productivity, in your mental health. Okay? So that's a big one. For me, for a morning routine, I really a lot of people ask me sort of, how do you navigate getting self-care done? And Jordan said, oh, we don't have to make up for self-care with extra work. Who knew? Right? Exactly. We're going to fill in that time. That's the thing. And here's how I stay accountable. And I have 3 businesses. So I have about 25 employees. So we've got a lot going on. I'm sure some of you are parents, and I'm sure we're all juggling different things, whether we're caring for loved ones or navigating a new job market right now. There's so much going on in the world. And it doesn't mean we should skimp on self-care. It means that we need it even more. And so for me, what I like to do, and I remember this very clear realization I had, and that was that at night, what I was doing was I was burning myself out during the day, and I was getting to the evening. And like I said, for like 3 hours at night, I was just kind of like mindlessly eating or scrolling on Instagram or watching TV. And I remember thinking, what if I were to trade in some of these evening hours where I'm sort of like not doing anything very effective, and trade them for like a really beautiful hour for myself in the morning. So I thought, I'm just going to go to bed a little bit earlier. And so I started doing that. I started going to bed at 8 or 9 p.m., waking up around 5 a.m. And what I realized is that when I wake up really early, I have time for myself. And it is really the only time that I find committed, quiet, focused self-care time. And so that has just become my routine. So I do it first thing in the morning before I pick up my phone. I like to meditate and journal and get in nature if I can, and do all those little things that really help. So we'll talk a little bit about what's involved in there. So self-care will create more time in many cases because you're motivated and you're clear and intentional. And we need to schedule the time for it. And that's what we'll talk about that when we talk about time management. So the next thing is changing too much at once. And I see this all the time. We are so tempted to change all of the things at once. We're motivated for a day. So I'm going to clean up my diet. I'm going to work out. I'm going to meditate every day. And I'm going to journal every day. I'm going to have a morning routine and an evening routine. And I'm going to take breaks during the day. And I'm going to XYZ. And what happens is that it happens for like a day or two, or maybe a week or 2 weeks if you're super strong in the willpower, and then it fails. And we set ourselves up for failure. So I would rather you set yourself up for success. So when I talk about micro habits, what I mean is, say you want to be consistent with your meditation practice. You're going to commit, and you're going to put this on your self-care checklist, to 5 minutes of self-care daily. You can always do more. But if your goal is very small, you're going to feel like you're winning over and over. And we keep doing the things that we feel like we're doing a good job at. That's the thing. So what would happen, let me give you an example. So say you set a 5-minute, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes every day, versus you set, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes every day. And you go to show up at your meditation and you meditate for 15 minutes. Think about your perspective walking away from that meditation if you had set yourself up committing to 5 minutes a day versus the 30 minutes a day. If you had committed to the 5 minutes a day, you walk away feeling like a rock star. You're like, damn, I am killing this self-care. I did 3 times as much as I said I was. I'm going to keep doing this because I'm good at meditation. You set yourself up, you said 30 minutes and you only got 15 minutes. Ugh, I knew it. I knew I couldn't stick to it. I'm going to stop doing this. This is overwhelming. This doesn't work with my schedule. Meditation's not for me. You did the same amount either way. So I'm a big, big believer in micro habits. So whenever we set these little tiny changes, and it's easy, it's very tempting to want to do more. And I understand that. But if you want to do it over the long term and you want longevity and you want consistency of new habits, we have to take it slow. Lasting change comes from empowerment, not shame. So small, nearly fail-proof habits are critical. Yeah, Blake said, I always get in the zone of changing it all at once. Yeah, trust me, that was me for a long time. And then we overload and we burn out. So the next thing is that we don't have systems for consistency. So this is the second half of this workshop today. This is bridging the gap between knowledge and action. I like to say we have a knowledge overload and an implementation drought. A knowledge overload and an implementation drought. We have so much information. It's such a cool time to be alive when we can get access to so many things and we can learn almost anything in the world. But oftentimes our obsession with learning takes away from our ability to implement and actually incorporate and execute things into our life. And so the systems for accountability with self-care and nearly everything that we do are what bridge that gap. So not having systems to support yourself or expecting yourself to remember to do everything is just setting yourself up for success. So I'm very excited to talk about systems with you in a bit. Great. So we're going to take a break in just a minute or two. I'm just going to finish these last 2 here. So redundancy, that can often mean that we're like, we're getting tired of repeating the same things over and over, things feeling redundant. And then the last thing is this lack of self-worth and thinking that we don't deserve to be cared for. And this is a big issue. And I'm just going to talk about the connection with self-love and self-care. And then we're going to take a little break to care for ourselves. Self-love and self-care are deeply combined. So if you're struggling with self-love, I encourage you to take actions towards self-care. Because what happens when you get enough sleep or you practice, but any of these things, journaling, meditation, getting out in nature, when you practice self-care, you're subconsciously saying to yourself, you are worth taking care of. You are worthy. You have worth. And that cultivates more self-love. And if you're struggling with practicing self-care, but you want to work towards cultivating more self-love, think about the things you love in the world the most. Maybe it's your dog, maybe it's your kids. It is natural to want to take care of the things that we love. So this isn't so much a conversation about who has more willpower or motivation. We don't need willpower or motivation when we have an innate foundation of self-love that says to us and makes us naturally take actions without even have to think about it, actions of self-care. Okay? So we're going to take a quick break. I think, how long are we going to take a break for? Oh, Lindsay's coming back. Here she is.
Hi guys. Just 5 minutes. So just stretch, go to the bathroom. We do it so no one misses anything if they have to go to the bathroom or get some water. But we'll be back at 5:51. I'm doing math. 5:51 PST. And we'll see you in a few.
Great.
So good.
Thanks, guys.
No question is weird or wrong. We want to hear them all. But take it away, Danika.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to jump right back in where we were. Let's pull this up. Okay. So I want to talk really quickly about the foundational four. And to me, there are 4 elements of self-care that I spoke to before that were inspired from my initial self-care checklist that are sort of essential before we do the deeper work. And so I believe that the number one most important self-care tool, self-care practice is sleep. It's rest, it's sleep, it's naps, it's breaks, it's pauses, it's slowing down. And I know that's hard to hear because we're typically in a culture of like, do, I want to do more, but it's so important. You all know, I mean, I do not function well without sleep. So I don't know if you're the same way, let me know, but I do not function well. I can't really get anything else done. So then the second one is nourishment. This is how we eat, how we drink, how we fuel ourselves. So what you'll notice with these is this is about the physical body, because we are here in these physical forms in order to experience the physical world. And so, yes, I believe that in self-care, a lot of the deeper stuff, the mental health stuff, the manifestation, the mindset stuff, I think is really important. That's where the magic lies. But we can't get there if we're struggling with brain fog, if we're struggling with, being stressed out and we have no mental capacity to expand more. And so I think these foundational 4 are really important to focus on. So if I was to ever give someone, a place to start with a self-care checklist, it would to be look at these foundational 4 and decide where you can get them in a little bit more. So movement is just moving our body. Emotions, energy, and motion. We need to get our bodies moving. And I'm not talking, this doesn't have to be a bunch of CrossFit or crazy activity. It's really just about getting the emotional energy up and flowing through our body, stretching, connecting, flowing. And then our mind. So our mind, I think, is where this cusp goes from the physical body into the mental, emotional, spiritual, right? Meditation, journaling, having space. So these were the 4 things that I would start with. And some examples of this and what this might look like on a self-care checklist is, for me, I write down, I have a sleep check box. And in the morning when I fill out my self-care checklist, I check sleep. And I usually will note how many hours I slept and any notes about my sleep quality. For nourishment, I know that when I avoid sugar and when I avoid alcohol and certain things, I feel a lot better. So I might put a box on my checklist that says, avoid sugar or avoid alcohol or drinking certain amounts of water each day or taking supplements. For movement, that's where I might put 10 minutes of stretching every morning or, a 15-minute yoga flow. And then for mind, that's where I might write, do the artist, someone was saying the artist way, morning pages. So do morning pages or do a 10-minute meditation or, clean up your space. I'm a big fan of decluttering for mindfulness. So these are the foundational 4, and I think where it starts. When our physical vessel is supported, the outside that we can go deeper. We're allowed to go deeper. So Jessica, great question. Morning pages come from a book by Julie Cameron, I believe is the author's name, but it's a red book and it's called The Artist's Way. And it's really a journaling practice. It's a way to really clear out your minds and all the sort of mental clutter that's going on through it in the morning to really tap into your, Julie Cameron, thank you, Blake, to really tap into your creativity. Great book, highly recommend it. It's called The Artist's Way. So the next thing I want to do is I want to read you a Shel Silverstein quote passage. And I found this yesterday and I read it in a class I was teaching at Self-Care Society. And I just think it's so beautiful. And a big foundation of the work that I do and what I really believe in is that a guide is here to guide you back into yourself. I believe deeply that we have our own answers and we often are not creating the space to listen. I always say, seek inspiration outside yourself and seek answers within. So how does that look in real life? That looks like coming to this workshop, seeking inspiration from what you're learning, and then pausing and asking, does this work for me? Does this work with my life? Even though everyone told me to do one thing, what feels aligned for me? And I love this quote, so I'm going to read it to you. It's Michelle Silverstein. It's called The Voice. There is a voice inside of you that whispers all day long. I feel this is right for me. I know that this is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside. My self-care checklist and this whole practice of self-care has just been about me coming home to myself. And that is what I really want to help people do, is to come home to themselves, to trust themselves, to use their innate wisdom, their intuition, their guidance system that's already built in, to let them guide them in life. And we cannot do that if we are not in relationship with self. If we are not taking time to honor ourselves, if we are not pausing, the sacred pause. What do I want? How do I feel? Truly. And so I love this, and this is sort of gearing us up for our next exercise. So I want to I want to get clear. And so before we dig into systems and all that stuff, we're going to do some things that will really help us get clear on what we want and where we are going. We are like GPS system. Our life is like a GPS system. So what I mean by that is, when I say that, I mean, you only need to know where you're going, not how you're going to get there. The second we get ourselves involved in the how, we deter us. We hit detours, right? We put ourselves off track. An example for me was I wanted to be a model my whole life because I never felt good enough. I never felt pretty. I never felt anything like that. And so, of course, our minds create things for us. And of course, that was ultimately my reality, but it ended up happening. I ended up being a plus size model because it was a way that I could do it that I didn't have to hurt myself. But when it was in my hands and I was committed to how it was going to happen and I was going to lose all this weight to get there, I just got in my own way year after year after year after year. And I was sick, and there was resistance, and there was pain, until I finally surrendered and said, this is where I'm going, and I don't need to know how to get there. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to do a visualization. I call this a dream life visualization. That's my dog Kingsley. So anytime I like to meditate, he feels the need to, join in. He's a sweet guy. But what I want you to do, and this is going to take some time here. So I really want you to make sure you feel comfortable and you feel safe. You feel supported wherever you're sitting. And I'm really going to encourage you. You showed up for this. You are here. Please play big. Let yourself go here. Let yourself play. All you're going to do is have your eyes closed, and I'm going to guide you through a visualization. And what I want you to do is really see whatever comes to mind. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And even if you get pulled away and your mind takes you elsewhere while we're doing this, that's no problem. So you're just going to follow my voice, and I'm just going to guide you, and you're going to let yourself go wherever you want to go. Okay? So let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath in. Put our dream big hat on. And I want you to imagine yourself 5 years in the future. I want you to see the highest version of yourself, navigating life surrounded by light. You have built the life of your dreams. You are healthier than you've ever been. Feelings of joy, content, peace, and excitement linger through your days. You have a depth of self-love that makes it simple to take care of yourself. You are surrounded by the most interesting, elevated, and encouraging people. You have amazing friends and a depth of connection you only once dreamed of. You are loved deeply, whether by a partner, children, parents, family, friends, pets, or all of the above. The first thing I want you to visualize is where you live. You are in the space of your dreams. You've just woken up and you feel refreshed and excited for the day. It's early morning and you feel the sheets against your body. You've never felt bedding quite this soft. You are the first awake and you slip gracefully out of bed, noticing if there is someone sleeping beside you. If so, you pause to stare at them for a moment. You've never felt a love and support so deep. This person who loves you deeply exactly as you are. Whether they've been on this journey with you for years or you attracted each other as you became your best self, you know deeply that their love for you is real, raw, and infinite. You place your feet on the floor and you feel that decadent flooring below you. Do you have carpet, tile, faux fur? Do you have slippers next to your bed? Is the floor hot or cold? You make your way to the bathroom and notice the gorgeous decor. Do you have a big tub, a shower for two, a simple sanctuary? You pause and look deeply at the mirror, at the person and the mirror. You have never looked better. You are the healthiest, most vibrant, happy version of you that you've ever seen. You glance at your beautiful body, feeling silly about how you spent so much time being unkind to it. You shower your gorgeous self in love, positivity, and gratitude. You see your eyes in the mirror, and all you can notice is a depth of peace and content. The weight of the world is no longer on your shoulders. Busy is no longer your birthright. You make your way towards the kitchen and take a glimpse out the window. The scene is so beautiful. It's exactly what lights you up. Maybe the city life has been a dream forever. Maybe it's a vast forest, sprawling desert, bustling metropolitan area, a still lake, crashing ocean waves. Maybe this is your vacation home. Let yourself dream. What season is it outside? Where are you? You make your favorite morning drink as you head to watch the sunrise. Maybe you grab a blanket if it's cool out. You bring with you your journal and a book. You settle in to the coziest spot, the spot you spend time in daily, going inward. You set your drink down and your book aside, and you open up your journal for some of your favorite morning practices. You start by noting down how you feel. How do you feel? I am ... I feel ... It pours out of you. Do you feel happy, joyful, free, abundant, connected, peaceful, creative, expansive, spacious, confident, healthy, vibrant? You pause to soak in those feelings and really embody each of them fully. You've learned to savor the goodness. You breathe deeply. Then you begin writing your gratitude. You complete the following statements. I am so grateful for. Thank you so much for. You inhale deeply and notice the scents. You listen presently. You notice your body. You live in it now. It is your greatest sense and source of wisdom. Pain is gone. Struggle is gone. Suffering is gone. Distrust is gone. You reflect on the last year and all that has happened for you. You have had a great impact on this world. What have you done? You accomplished a big goal and dream of yours. How does that feel? You feel someone gracefully sneak up from behind you with a big old hug. Who is it? They join you as the sun gets higher in the sky. They tell you how much you mean to them, all the things they love about you. You get up to tend to something inside and they leave your phone for you on the table. They let you know that there were a few alerts. You glance and see one from your bank with an update on your balances. You are fully debt-free. You have financial freedom. What do you have in the bank? In investments? How do you use this wealth for good? You're reminded that you've been wanting to take a spontaneous trip in a couple weeks and you think of the perfect place. You book the flights and relax deeper into your chair, grateful for the freedom and abundance you've found in life. As you sip your drink, you look at the day you have ahead of you. You can't imagine a better day. What do you have planned? What will you do immediately after this nourishing self-care time? What are you doing in the afternoon? Who will you have dinner with and what will you have? What does the evening time look like? You take another deep breath of gratitude, filling your entire healthy body, the body you take such beautiful, exquisite care of, that you've made friends with, that you love. You have a lightness and ease in how you navigate the world. On this slow morning, the type you have nearly every day now, you reflect on how far you've come, how tiny changes, small consistent action, a commitment to your desires and dreams led you to this moment in the most graceful way. It didn't have to be hard. It wasn't stressful. It was actually the following of what felt easy and light and a line that moved you even faster. You learned to be. You learned to trust yourself and your intuition. You learned that whatever you could possibly dream, you could create. And as your eyes slip closed to connect with your greatest place, your inner world, a wave of lightness, contentment, gratitude, freedom, and peace washes over you. You've created the life of your dreams simply by your attention to your desire and by not having a plan B. You didn't have to figure out how to get there. You just had to decide that you would. And you're here. You've made it. And you'll continue to grow and dream and create. But for now, you're soaking it all in, savoring these feelings you once dreamed of, planning out how you can help make this possible for others too. So grateful you decided to shine your light as it gave permission to others to do the same. Let's take a deep breath in and release. And you can open your eyes. Tell me how you're feeling. Did you go there? Did you let yourself go there? How was it? I'll take one word. I'll take a sentence. Crying. Beautiful. I love tears. I think tears are so powerful. Wonderful. What else? Krista, sometimes I found myself stopping before I let myself get there. Yeah. Very common. Totally fine. Totally fine. Totally okay. And some days we can do it more naturally than others, right? There's a lot going on in the world right now. Blake said hard at first. Jen said peace, and I'm pregnant in 5 years. That was a shocker. Awesome. Krista said not letting myself dream. Blake made it to my forest vacation home eventually. Me and Beyonce are friends. Hell yeah. So a big belly. So powerful. Crying tears. Peace. Beautiful. All right. So while we're in this energy, what we're going to do is one of my all-time favorite self-care activities. And it's a future biography. Now, this is something that I have been doing almost every day for 5 years. Why do I do this? Because I want to continually remind the universe and myself of where I am going and where I'm headed, who I want to be. So what you're going to do is you're going to think about yourself. You're going to imagine. It really helps me sometimes to think about if I were to write a book in 5 years and I had a little, in the front cover, it showed my little picture and it had a little blurb about who I was. What would it say? And so I really want you to allow yourself to dream, and especially maybe take what you got in that visualization and turn this into a written statement. So I'm going to read you an example of mine, and then I'll give you a few minutes to do this. It doesn't have to be as long as mine, but it is an incredible practice that I highly encourage you to do as often as you can. Danika Brysha is a mother, author, and wellness entrepreneur making a powerful impact on this world. She has helped millions to find joy in taking care of themselves and helped empower them to live their fullest lives. She is a mother of 4 and loves spending time in nature, gardening, and living off their land as much as possible. She lives a slow and spacious life with lots of time for authentic connection, reading, creating, and donating her time and resources. She is kind, generous, authentic, happy, impactful, and free. So I want you to give a stab at this. You'll start with your name is, as if someone else is writing it about you, and just try. If you have no idea, that's totally okay. You can keep it really simple. You could say, Danika Brysha is happy, healthy, and financially free. She lives a life that feels good. She does work that is really aligned. So you can keep it vague if that's easier for you. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself. I'll turn on a little bit of music. I'll leave this up as an example. And let's take about 3 to 5 minutes to do this. I would love, 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 after we do this, someone who might be willing to come on camera and read theirs. So no pressure, of course, but it would be incredible. This is a safe space, and it's so cool to hear other people's. So just keep that in mind and think about if that might be you. It should be you. Okay. All right. So if you're still writing, keep writing. Is there anyone who might be willing to share? If you are on camera, there's a raise hand button that should be at the bottom of your screen, and you can click the raise hand button and it'll let me know you're interested in coming on. I'm not just going to randomly bring someone on. So it doesn't matter if you finished, it doesn't matter if it's perfect, and it's okay if no one does, but I'm really going to encourage someone to be very courageous and share and come on and share. Do I have anyone who's open? Doesn't matter if your house is a mess. Amazing. Healing in hindsight. You're going to have to tell me what your name is, but I'm going to bring you on. Let me stop sharing my screen real quick. All right. Amazing. Oh, and also, let me see. Jen, I'm going to bring both of you. Okay. Let's see. And you'll just have to turn on your video. Hi. Hey, ladies. Oh my gosh, both of you have such great backgrounds, and you weren't even prepared for this.
Those are my dogs saying hi.
Hi, hello. What was your name? Healing in hindsight.
Okay. Can y'all chill? I'm talking. So my name is Taylor.
Taylor.
And you actually caught me at a good time because I was doing a podcast interview with a friend earlier, so I was already set up.
Amazing.
Hi, Krista. Hi, Lindsey. Miss you guys. I actually am one of the moderators for their Facebook group, so.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah,
Well, nice to meet you. Are you open to sharing?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love this exercise. I have no problem.
Good.
Bragging on myself. Okay, so I put Taylor Danielle is a wife, artist, entrepreneur making her waves in the wellness and real estate space. After growing her wellness brand, Healing in Hindsight, this Texas native I wrote so fast I can't even read my writing. This Texas native took to helping communities of color by tackling the hotel and apartment industry, changing gentrified areas in communities that she cared about. She also provided market centers for small business owners who didn't always have the platform to be themselves and provide the products and services that they believed in. When she's not working on all of her ventures, you can find her painting in her home studio with her 2 dogs and living partner.
Incredible. And so it shall be.
That's what I'm aiming for.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Jen, you want to go next?
I'm totally embarrassed also because I just did a Target run and this is a new thing and I didn't realize it also matches my headband.
Oh, I think it is very fierce. So you were rocking it. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a vibe I am here for.
Beyond. Sorry, I wasn't expecting this. Jen is a mother, a wife, the CEO and chief content officer of the first global streaming service that exclusively promotes and produces content that is female focused. When not working, she spends her time traveling with her family and 3 dogs. She has vacation homes in the desert and the Amalfi Coast. She is present for her family, who is also healthy and thriving. She loves deep, hard, and with purpose and intention. She impacts everyone she touches positively and continues to build communities focused on empowering women. That's as far as
Mic drop. Damn, this community, I'm not surprised, I should know, but y'all are like, most people try this for the first time and they have no idea. They get a few words out. That was so clear. Damn.
Thanks.
Amazing. I'm going to come visit you on the Amalfi Coast.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Everyone is welcome.
And I will wear all leopard when I am there.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, everyone. I'll put you back here. Let's see. All right. So courageous and awesome. All right. So let's move forward. We're going to talk about self-care systems as promised. So reminder, what I want to share with you is when we jump into these systems, what I always like to preface with is please take this as inspiration and then take what might work for you and leave the rest. Because this is a lot of information. These are systems that for me have gradually become part of my process over 5 or 6 years. And so I just want you to know that while I'm going to be showing you a lot of different technologies and things of that nature, it's totally about what feels good to you. And it's also starting small. So we've talked about this. It's not going to be like a bunch of different things, right? A bunch of crazy things. So I want to talk really quickly about my 3 systems. So I use 3 systems for my self-care, and that may seem like overkill, but I actually use these not just for self-care, I use them for everything in life. So everything I want to stay accountable to, everything that is important to me, every little habit change that I want. And I've really played with them and navigated with them over the years. So there's 3 things. The first that we talked about is the self-care checklist. So this can be done in a few ways, and I'll show you an example of sort of what my old self-care checklist looks like. But what I like to use the self-care checklist for is I like to do my self-care in a journal instead of another thing on the computer sometimes. So if I'm doing my own self-care, I like to take this self-care checklist, and this is the one from Self-Care Society. We have this cool digital one where you can save it and log all your different wins and stuff. And what I'd like to do is open this up, and these are kind of our key categories. But I like to think, okay, I want to do a manifestation exercise today. So I'm going to check that box, and I'm going to write a future biography, which you just learned. Oh, and I want to make sure hydration is a priority. So I'm going to chug, a glass of water, and I'm going to click my hydration. So this is all about really small wins. So that's the self-care checklist. I'll dig into it shortly. The second thing I use is my calendar. So the one I'm showing here is iCal. I use Google Calendar. It just syncs with iCal. Doesn't matter which calendar you use or which system you use. It's, whatever feels good to you. I use my calendar to time block the big picture. So I don't put the minutia of my day on my calendar for the most part. It's more big picture things. So anything that's like 30 minutes to an hour or longer, I put on my calendar, and just little things I need to remember. And of course, things that happen at specific times. So if I have a call or a workshop, I'll use my calendar for that as well. It really helps me visualize. And I'm going to show you in a second how I use that to prioritize self-care. And then the third thing, which is on the left, all the different colors and craziness that you're seeing, is this is the technology called Asana. It's like any app where you would set reminders or to-dos, like any project management app. There's Trello, there's Monday, there's a lot of different systems. So it would be whatever feels good to you, but I'm just going to show you Asana because that's what I've been using. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. Yes, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to walk through some of these technologies. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start with the calendar, and I want to speak to a few things on here. Let's see. So here's my calendar. I think you can all see it. Can you just confirm you can see it? Are you able to see it and read it? Yes? Okay, great. Thank you, Taylor. So this is my calendar, and what you're going to notice is I have lots of different fun colors. Green is self-care for me. Blue is work for me. My different businesses have different colors and that sort of thing. But what I do is I come onto my calendar and I time block for the things that matter to me. Now, what happens during the day is that it's life and things happen and nothing happens exactly when we plan for it. But what I have in here are repeating events set so that I know every day I have carved out space for meditation and journaling. That way, if someone says, hey, can you do X, Y, Z at this time on this day, I can look and I can be honest with myself of, if I do that, am I going to be sacrificing something else? Can I move this somewhere else? So I time block my days in this way, and you'll see it down here as well, right? And the green for me is all self-care. You'll see I schedule breaks throughout the day. These are all little things that help me really get intentional with my day. So if you scroll over here, you can just see work blocks. I work really well in 90-minute blocks. Otherwise, I get really overwhelmed. So if I take a break and then I work, and then I take a break and then I work, I find I'm a lot more productive. So if you were to be building a calendar out and you wanted to use your calendar in this way, and again, take what works for you, leave the rest. If you wanted to do this, what you're doing is you're setting repeating events for the most part. So meditation and journaling, look, repeats every day on these days. And then if I have it on, varying times, I'll put them in individually. But these are all things that I've just set up individually. I track my cycles so that I know sort of what my energy is going to be like at different times, at different times. And of course, things move around, but this is the way, what I realized when I started tracking my time in this capacity is that I would get to the end of the day and feel like for the first time, I was doing enough. Because I think when we don't have it in front of us and we don't see how much we're doing, it's really easy to feel like we're not doing enough. And while our value is not aligned with how much we get done, the reality is we live in a time that is very busy and we're trying to do all the things. And the reality is that there's so much to learn and there's endless things to do. So it's more about prioritization. So one other thing I want to show you, might be like, well, oh my gosh, all this time is scheduled. And there's also a reason I schedule in sleep, because the only way I'm going to get the amount of sleep, or aim for 9 hours of sleep, which I really want, and it doesn't happen every night, but which I try for, is if I schedule it. And I know, okay, well, if I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., then I need to go to bed at 8, maybe 9, close to it. But you see, the other thing I want to share with you is this. Wednesday is my white space day. So what I realized, owning a few businesses, and what I realized was that my calendar was going to fill up no matter what. So it was my job to create white space in my calendar. White space essentially just means unscheduled space. So I schedule unscheduled space. Now, what do I do on White Space Wednesday? It doesn't always happen, but ideally, I'm not on social media. I'm using that time to read. I'm using that time to create. Maybe it's creating content, or maybe it's brainstorming the next big thing that you want to do, anything that's going to move you forward. So I use my calendar schedule in time blocks to really serve me. Again, life happens, things come up, but it's a really beautiful way to be really respectful and intentional with your time. So I know we are going to answer questions at the end, but I do also want to, if there's anything immediate that comes up, because this is a lot of details, I do want you to ask them, and I'm happy to answer as we go. But this is really getting a feel for, time management. And this for me is the big picture. So here's the thing. Now it's, what do I do to keep track of all the minutia? Well, I used to schedule in all the little things that I needed to do in the day. And that got super stressful, super quick. And I realized I needed to have a more macro view. I needed to back up and say, I don't know how long all these tasks are going to take. And me moving things around on my calendar all day is not realistic. This is just a guideline. My calendar is just a way for me to have a big picture of what's going on for the day. So I'm going to pull down the calendar. And again, if you have questions as we go, let me know. And I'm going to share with you Asana. Let me actually pull this up. And again, I'm going to remind you, take what you want and leave the rest. Again, I've been doing this for a long time. So I'm going to share my Asana with you. So first, what I'm going to do is share with you, this is what what it looks like for me day to day. So I have a lot of I use this in a way, and it's meant for businesses, but I use it for everything in life. And so it's little things that I'm doing. It's reminders to take supplements. It's reminders to water my plants. It's reminders to take a break in the garden in the afternoon when I know I'm more likely to reach for food and numb out and just feel depleted, right? It's reminders to take a pause and prioritize what needs to get done. Look, here we are, our workshop, right? It's my evening self-care checklist and my morning self-care checklist. So these are all set up. I'm not in here programming this stuff every day. I'm not doing that on my calendar either. You set it up once and they repeat themselves, and then you can do them, whenever. So I have all these different projects, and what I want to show you, green is my wellness color. I usually sync it with what I do on my calendars. But what I want to show you over here is a really cool way to utilize this. So let's say, for example, you're listening to the Almost 30 podcast and Krista recommends an amazing book, and you're like, wow, I really want to read this. I really want to read that book. I don't have time right now, but I don't want to forget to read that book. Oh yeah. Okay, there we go. I don't want to forget to read that book. So you might come in here and put it up here. Look, there's something for Lindsey and Krista there. So like my friend sent me a document that she wanted me to read and she thought it was good. So I put it here. I didn't have time. There was a podcast I wanted to listen to. I put it in here. So all these different things that I want to do in terms of, different therapies or watching a YouTube video or reading a book, I can put these in here and, know what we want to get done, right? Never forget it. So different things, for work, I have different projects for my workouts. For example, I was doing a workout and I put them in here and I was able to assign them to certain days and times and that sort of thing. And this just keeps me really accountable towards what I want to get done. So here's the thing. And I know 100% that you look at something like this and it probably feels very, very overwhelming, but I find it to be a beautiful act of self-care because I no longer have to carry around the stress that I am going to forget to do something, that I'm going to drop the ball on something. That is no longer a concern for me. it also is a way for me to almost seamlessly incorporate little habits, as long as I'm not committing, like we talked about. As long as I'm not overcommitting, this is a beautiful way for me to create a new habit. So I realized, I really wanted to take 15 minutes in the garden afternoon, because I knew that I got burnt out around 3 p.m. and that when I go out and put my feet in the grass and connect to nature and unplug, even for 15 minutes, I know it serves me. And so I put it on here, and at 3 p.m. it pops up, and I do that. And then I check it, and then it pops up the next day, right? You scroll down, you'll see the things for tomorrow, right? Different things, prayer, meditation, this is personal, but you're my friend, so it's okay. So anyway, all of this stuff is just here to remind me of the things that matter. Let the light in. Open my blinds, make my space bright. That matters to me. Read my vivid vision. So I was working on my money mindset. So I wrote something, and what I do is I come in here and I read this vision for myself, and I check it off. And when I do it, it goes to tomorrow. So all these little details. Now, what I want to show you is, if you were to come into Asana and it's blank, which it probably is if you're not using it already, which most people probably not, I want to just show you how you would start creating this, because looking at mine can feel very overwhelming. So you would click create a project. Yeah, if you're like if you like the details, you're going to love this. But the truth is, it's like, we're doing a protocol right now for fertility and longevity, and there's so many pieces to it. And I was like, how am I going to remember to implement all these things? So this is the coolest thing, because you can watch the Inner Peace workshop that comes with this, or you can watch something that Krista and Lindsey put out, and you can be listening to a podcast and then open Asana and throw a note in there that says that you want to read that book or try that thing, or just like so let me answer this question. Is there a setting to click so that when you complete a task, it goes to the next day? Yeah, so let me show you on mine. So let's see my omega-3s. So if you click on this, this is a repeating event, and it repeats every day at this time. So when I click it, woo! And sometimes, you guys, with the app and everything, there's like unicorns that shoot across the screen. And it goes to the next day. So as soon as you complete it, it can go to the next day. And you can, of course, move stuff. Like I had this, so I'm going to put that there. So it's just a way to keep track of everything. You don't have to reprogram stuff over and over. It's just once a day. It's just one time, and then it repeats. But I have, of course, a lot of one-time events. So if I have a call or a workshop that's just a one-off thing, I'll add it in the morning. So part of my self-care, which you probably saw on my calendar, was to manage Asana. I have on my calendar, and I actually have in Asana, manage Asana right here, morning and night. And that's just me setting up my day. Taking 5 minutes to set up my day and to close out my day, to set up the next day, has been life-changing, truly, because it's just me organized, and it helps me really prioritize what matters. So Jordan said, how often do you check this? Do things get lost? Do you forget to check this? Absolutely. There are days when I just don't go in, I don't check anything. And then what I do is I go in one swoop and I just check all the boxes, and they move to the next day, or whenever the next day is. Even if you skipped 5 days, you just check them, they move to whatever tomorrow is. So it's going to happen. And the point of this is not to be perfect, but on the days that you feel like the structure really serves you, it's great. I actually don't really schedule things on Saturday on this. It's really just like the basic health, like supplements and stuff, because I don't like to have to-dos on Saturdays or Sundays. So I use these systems for the most part on the weekdays, and then on the weekends, I really like to flow a lot more, and I don't use them as much. But I do have the app, and I keep it open on my computer, and it's been really, really powerful. So if you were to set it up on your own, what you would do is create a project, and you might click blank project, and let's call it, maybe you're making yours for self-care, right? All right. And so what you would do is you come in here, and you know that you want to meditate for 10 minutes. And you assign it to yourself, and you know that you want to do this tomorrow, beginning tomorrow, and you want to repeat it. You want to repeat it on, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Done. And then what would happen is it would show up in your My Tasks right here. And so as you build these things in, you're going to have a list of your self-care stuff. And the second I meditate tomorrow and I check it, it moves on to the next day. Oh, you saw the unicorn. Great. So that's just see, it went to upcoming. Now it's for on Monday. So it's really quite easy. It does take some setup, but it has been so impactful for me to utilize this, not just as a business owner, but as someone who has just a million things going on. Like we don't have 24 hours for for family and friends, and then 24 hours for work and 24 hours for wellness. We only have 24 hours. So I think that everything should be in one place. So how's everyone feeling about this? Are we okay? Are we overwhelmed? Are we feeling all right? Give me a like, let me know you're all right real quick. Okay, good. I am like such a systems person, so I love this stuff. But let me know if I'm going a little too fast. Your list has me sweating, but here for the systems. What is your sign? My sign is Gemini, actually. Yeah. I think I'll be honest, the reason that I'm so passionate about these systems is because it's the only way that I can navigate the big life I've built for myself. I have an incredible, beautiful life, and I'm a dreamer, and I like to create things, and I like to start businesses, and I love to, dream. And for me, I have to have something that sort of keeps me in the action as well. While limiting overwhelm. And so this for me has been a great gift and an awesome tool. So the last thing I'm going to show you, and I showed you first, is our self-care checklist. So this is our self-care checklist. This is the actual Self-Care Society portal. We teach live 30-minute self-care classes. Like you did the future bio and the manifestation. And so I teach about 5 of those per week. And this is our self-care checklist. So a lot of times when I don't really want to be doing like a ton of screen time, I can just like have a picture of this or a list of this somewhere, and I'll just have this, and I'll take my journal and I'll do exercises that support this. So for me on my Asana, I don't know if you noticed or not, but all I have on my Asana, instead of all the like minutia of things, for the most part, it just says self-care checklist. And then that I just do in my journal. And when I talk about that, that's about like journaling and writing down my sleep and writing my gratitude and my affirmations and writing a future bio and all those little tools that I love. A lot of the mindset stuff is going to come into play and be, is going to be, I can use on here. So I love this, and I'm going to show you. So this is really fun. I mean, we just have like little clickety clicks. Woo! So again, if you like unicorn graphics and things of that nature, that's super fun. But the other thing that I want to show you, let me show you my other page here, is my OG self-care checklist, because this might resonate with you more than this one. So I'm just going to show you it real quick. This platform that I'm sharing right now, that's Self-Care Society. So this is our community and our tools and all that. That's Self-Care Society. So let me share with you my Evernote. And this is where I originally started doing self-care checklists. And this is what it looked like. So originally I just made this my checklist, and I would make a template like this, and it would have these little things on it. And every morning I would copy this and paste it into a new note, and I would go in and fill it out. So what I would do is in the morning, and I would adjust these. So, I love a weekly challenge or a monthly challenge, small things changing over time. So I would decide what I want to do for these things, 15 minutes in the garden daily, and I would come in and do it. I would narrow down my to-dos here. As my systems have evolved, I'm now using that digital self-care checklist more, and I'm now using Asana more. But I also wanted to show you this example because we're all different and different things appeal to each of us. So this is just Evernote, which is a note-taking app. It's free. Asana is actually free also. And I just made a list, like you could open a Google Doc and make a little checklist. And then each morning you would just, select all, copy and paste, and then you would fill it in each day. Right. And so this was just a place I would, do a meditation, and I'd reflect on my meditation, or I write down how much I slept, or I write my 3 things I'm grateful for. So these are some of the traditional things that I've been doing most days for, since I started, doing the checklist and really seeing the impact. So these are all just different systems for accountability, and different tools that have really helped me. So we did the biography from the future. So you're already a pro at that, that. And then a note for my future is like writing a journal entry from the future. I like to put, like, today I'd like to learn about, right? So what do I want to learn about today? So it's just a place to be really intentional. And so the last one I want to show you is my weekly self-care checklist. Again, I don't do these things every single day or week. So please remember that when I say it. These are just a variety of systems that are here to spark ideas. You're getting a recording of this video, so you can come back and you can pause on these and really look at the details, and maybe some of them you want to pull for yourself. And this is just an example of a weekly self-care checklist. So sometimes on Sundays, I'll do a self-care checklist that's less focused on the day and more focused on the week ahead. And this would be a time where I'd really, celebrate what I want to do from the week, look at what I might do differently. I'd look at my financials, because I spent a lot of my life not looking at my financials. And I think that's very important. I review goals. I'd narrow down some of my top to-dos for the week. I'd list out some of the books and podcasts that I wanted to listen to. That was, so that I'd be prepared, and I'd download them. So if I went to the gym or I went on a walk, then it's already ready. And then I would organize my calendar. So how I showed you my calendar earlier, I would go through here and make sure that I've sort of adjusted things based on what's going on in my life that week, and made sure that all these important things happen. So whether it's making time for my relationships, or making time to not just be in response mode all the time, but also be in proactive mode. So it was really a great thing to do and reflect on the weekends. And then just deliverables for my team, all that sort of stuff. So Blake said, pretty sure there's only one podcast. That's true. There's only one podcast I listen to. We all know that. So anywho, yeah, big facts. That's awesome. Oh, I love it. So anyway, this is sort of an idea of what I might do on a weekly basis. Again, all these systems, I really want to reiterate, all these systems, I am far from perfect with them. I'm not using everything at once. This is all about taking this information, seeking inspiration through this workshop, and seeking answers within yourself. So you get to walk away and determine which of these things might serve me. Where do I want to start? You could start as simple as the self-care checklist you built in class earlier, which was just making a list of what you're already doing. Maybe tomorrow you want to add one new thing. So maybe tomorrow it's making your bed if you don't do that. Or maybe tomorrow it is not bringing your phone in the bedroom, or unplugging by a certain time, or putting your feet in the grass, if you have grass nearby. So maybe it's just a little thing to make that change. So, I'm sweating. I get so excited by my systems. So that is it. Those are the systems. I know there's a lot of information there. What I want to really assure you is that I am always available to answer questions. There's going to be questions that come up as you build out systems for yourself. It's just natural. So you have this recording of, again, you can always go back, but you can also always reach out to me, as I am more than happy to answer any questions as you're building these things out, to build systems that really serve you. Remember, that is the goal here. The goal is to build systems that serve you. If you start doing it, and you overwhelm yourself, and you try and start with it looking like what mine do after doing this for 6 years, you're going to burn out. And so I want you to pick one of these systems. Which one of these systems was most exciting to you, right? Like, which one of these things feels like it'd be the most fun to set up and start utilizing? And start really small. Just start with the things you're already doing, so you can get the habit of using it, and then you can grow from there. So that is everything. I think we're going to do some Q&A here. Hey, Lindsey.
Hello. Oh man, I mean, nothing gets me more jazzed than seeing Danika Brysha's Asana. No, for real. That's what I'm going to spend my night doing. I love it so much. We actually just had a meeting the other day with the team where we were like, we use Asana, but we're like, we need to be on there. Yeah. So that was so cool to see for a more personal side. And I just want to add that when you said looking at your finances, I think that's something that is so empowering and important. I feel like I, like you, spent so many years not looking at my bank account, and now I get off it looking at it because I'm just aware of it now. Yeah. I don't fear it. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's so important. I did the same thing. I lost a lot of money because actually, this is a funny story, a quick story. I used to write an affirmation when I was struggling with money. I used to write an affirmation, and I'm telling you, I wrote this affirmation every single day for a few years. And the affirmation was, money flows to me faster than I can keep track of. Money flows to me faster than I can keep
I
it.
literally use that affirmation because you told us that. I used to say that because you told us that.
Don't say it, because turns out, Krista, you want to keep track of your money. And so I say that because we were on tour and, you know, there was a lot of money coming in, also a lot going out, but there was some stuff that happened financially with some, you know, within, and I didn't catch it. I spent money on things that we didn't need just because I wasn't paying attention, and things someone was spending money that they shouldn't have been and I wasn't paying attention. And so I say that because it's like, you know, the 4 agreements, they say be impeccable with your word. And it's like, oh, that's right. So yeah.
Yeah. I now use money comes to me freely.
Amen. I like that one. I'm gonna take that.
Amen.
All right, we're gonna do some Q&A, y'all. So
All right.
please submit your questions. We'll start off with a question from Taylor, Healing in Hindsight. How do you manage those days where you don't want to do anything? She tends to beat herself up when she's not productive and she lays in bed all day or something like that.
I'm like, I love this question, because when I first started doing this work, I like want to punch myself thinking about it. I think I was very much more, I was a lot less gentle, and we have to be gentle with this stuff. These tools can be a huge stressor and pain point if we don't use them with grace and permission. And so for me, it's about scheduling. Like I make sure that I schedule those days off. Like I used to be really bad at taking days off, and I'm not amazing at it. I mean, I own multiple, you can't, you know, you guys know, a lot of you here, I think, are entrepreneurs, and it's not like you ever get to be 100% off. But the truth is we have to. And so I'm really in tune, or I shouldn't say, I'm trying to be really in tune with the fact that like all of this is a guideline. Every single day I'm moving stuff to the next day, which tells me I'm not scheduling myself for success. So I'm learning. And I really try and see everything with curiosity, not judgment. So every day, if every single day I'm scheduling 20 more things to get done that I'm not getting to, then that's my practice. It's like, why do I keep setting myself up for failure? Because that's not how we do our best work, and that's not how we grow. So I think a big part for me was switching my mindset to realize that rest and play and turning our brain off is as productive and as important as making money and doing the business and recording podcasts and all that stuff. Like I just started seeing rest as productive as well. And so I'm starting to get in a groove, but it's hard. I mean, we live in a culture that is so built around do, and achievement being really connected to our worth. And so I think it's just being really conscious of it, and setting yourself up, like planning in that rest and that play and that time off. Like you guys saw on my calendar, I have like hours at night that is off time. I have my white space day. I have nothing scheduled. And I even see Saturday and Sunday, but I don't schedule things on most Saturdays, you know? So it's making sure I give it to myself before I burn out, and the world has to give it to me. It's like when you don't take a break and then you just get sick because the only time you would rest.
I was thinking about that recently. I was like, I feel like I'm going to be sick. I was like thinking, my like intuition was like, I'm going to make you sick if you don't slow down. I was thinking that today. It was like, oh, you're going to be sick if you don't slow down. Okay. Blake asks, I always go back to not having enough time for self-care. How long do you spend on intentional self-care day?
I love that. Self-care can be 5 minutes long. I mean, I work with a lot of moms, single moms, people who are moms and entrepreneurs, like, I mean, across the board, all ages, all situations. And the reality is that not everyone, I mean, I have a luxurious schedule in the sense that I work for myself, and I don't have children yet. And so I have a lot of freedom, but most of us don't. And I want to fully honor that. And so it's really important to remember that self-care does not have to take all this time. I mean, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes still has an impact. If all you do is make your bed and think about something you're grateful for, and you walk to like pour your coffee, that's huge. The smallest things, what happens when let's use making your bed for an example. When I make my bed in the morning, what that tells me, it took me 10 seconds. What it tells me is that I'm someone who has my life together. I'm someone who is intentional. I'm someone who is put together just by doing that little act. And what happens throughout the whole day is I subconsciously make choices that support that vision of me. And so I just want to reiterate, that's why I love that question. It's just life happens. Things are going to happen. Our kids will be sick. There might be a global pandemic. Hard to tell. We don't know. But we have to adjust, and we have to be willing to be flexible. And self-care does not have to be hours and hours. It can be, that's why I love podcasts. I am always listening. I'm not just saying this. I love you guys. I'm literally always listening to Almost 30 while I'm working out or walking, or if I'm getting ready, or if I'm cooking. It's like, where do I weave in inspiration? Where do I weave in expansion? How can I do self-care? Like, how can I overlap in ways, so not everything's great for multitasking, but there's a lot that we can do.
Love it. Okay, Jessica says, what steps did you take to become body positive and be kinder to yourself?
I love that question. It's interesting. I feel like I used to speak a lot about body positivity, and I think where I land now is exactly where I wanted to be, which is like body neutrality. And I don't know that I'm necessarily using that correctly, but for me, it's like the fact that I don't think about my body in relation to my worth. Like, I actually don't even think about my body. I live in it, and I'm grateful for it, and I nourish it as best I can. And I think for a long time I just didn't want to hate it. And now it's like even better. It's not even like the striving to love it. It's just I think I would say the more that I've gotten into spirituality, the less I identify with my physical meat sack that I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, I identify a lot more with my soul and my spirit. But it's a great question, and it's a really important question. And there were a lot of different things that helped me. And one of the biggest things that I will say is really paying attention to consumption. Social media, what I did, what actually happened for me was when I got into the plus size modeling industry, I started following a lot of women who were plus size models. And so my news feed slowly but surely was filled with these curvy women who, looked like me and were celebrating their bodies, and they were super confident. And so what I did was I saw that all these people was like this, it became okay. It became, in my perspective, that was the norm. Everyone was celebrating curvy bodies. So I started sharing myself and being more confident. And I became this body positive influencer out of nowhere, because I didn't realize that not everyone's newsfeed had this content in it, right? We forget that what we see is so curated to what we're interested in, but we can utilize it really powerfully. And so if you're on social, if you're going to spend some time on Instagram, it's intentionally program it to show you what you need to see, right? The same way we practice affirmations, we intentionally reprogram what the words that are going into our brain, because for every minute I'm saying something positive to myself, I'm stomping out some sort of negative thought. I also have a code word for when I catch myself in judgment, whether it's myself or others, and that word is love. It can be literally any word, but you can stomp out negative thoughts with another thought. So I literally imagine a thought's coming across my mind, and then I notice that it's a negative self-talk, and I'll say love, love. And it's impossible to think this thought that's coming in if I'm saying love, 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 and I'll just stomp it out. So that has really, really helped me. And then of course, paying attention to who I surround myself in. I don't surround myself in people who talk about their body negatively. I don't talk about my body negatively. And then, getting into self-care, like we talked about earlier, is self-care and self-love are so connected. And I think the more that we practice self-care, the more we are sending this messaging to ourselves that we have worth, we are worth taking care of, and that cultivates self-love. So I think the two are super connected.
Awesome.
Love that. I'll never forget. I was at an event, we were talking, and I was saying something about self-care, and I was confusing self-care and self-love. I was talking about self-care as if it was self-love. And the person who was speaking with us at the event was like, oh, it's not the same thing. And I was even blown away. I was like, oh my God, it's so true. And it cultivates self-love, but it really isn't the same thing. And even me, for a while, I almost took self-care to the extreme where I was doing it too much, where it was something that was not out of self-love, it was out of lack, really, why I was doing it, and unworthiness. So I've had to really be mindful about the ways in which I like use my self-care and not like do too much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've been there too. And I realized, I think that was when I remember it came into my head. It was like, just because I can make this work lifestyle work doesn't mean that I should. Meaning just because I can, just because I'm, I was having to practice like 3 hours of self-care just to make my life manageable. And I was like, okay, at what point am I not living my life because I have to do so many things to make the stress of it manageable? And I love that you said that. I think it's so important because it's a give and take, right? Like these systems are really important. And the best thing we can do is sort of work them in like gracefully. But I agree. It's like there has to be a balance so that we're actually living our life.
I wanted to just, as people submit any last questions, I just wanted to ask about the body neutrality and how have you seen any differences in the way that your body responds to food, to working out, to, I'm just curious, like that connection, because I've been experiencing that a little bit where I'm not as just like so aware of my body and like I feel like it's less stressed.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I think I understand your question. Like for me, it's this beautiful mix of like, I really want to live in my body because I realize that when I do, I spent my whole life not feeling my feelings because anytime something was uncomfortable, I used food to push it down. Like that was, I don't want to feel anything. So I'm just going to reach for something or social media, alcohol, whatever it is for anyone, And so I did a therapy maybe 5 years ago that really helped me stay in my body and identify physical sensations. And I was like shook when she pointed out that there were like certain feelings had certain sensations in different places in the body. I was like, what? Because I was so cut off for so long. But the second I started living in my body and using it as a GPS system to tell me, no, that feels good for me. No, that doesn't feel good for me. I like my life changed because I was able to say yes and no to things. Now, am I moving way too fast most of the time where I miss the whispers? Yeah, I do it all the time. Every single day, I'm like, I was moving too fast. I had too much going on. I wasn't mindful with that decision. I made a mistake, every day. And so that's a big practice for me. That's not really your question, I don't think. But I think your question was sort of around this idea of like, does my is your body responding differently based on, are you saying like self-care? Will you rephrase?
I think it's like that mindset shift of instead of focusing too far on the let me focus on my body and have just this awareness of like, okay, body positive, which is great, but this more so body neutrality where you're not associating your worth with your body, how that's changed how your body just like responds to things and feels. And I'm just curious if that's made a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely would want to like think through that in a deeper way, but I would say just there's just a sense of love. Like I don't know how, like the way that I eat nowadays, like now I eat in a way because I deserve to feel good. It's like I always say that every diet I went on for so long that failed, obviously, was because I hated my body and I wanted to change it. When I did Whole30 in 2014, I went into it thinking, I deserve to live. I know that I'm not living at my potential. I know that I could live I know my life could be bigger than what it is. I deserve to feel good. And there's a reason that stuck. And it's because I went into the commitment with self-love. I went in from a space of like, I deserve to feel good. And so I think for sure, I mean, I just feel more in touch with my body, like listening in the different seasons of life, the different times of like for me and my cycle where I need certain energies. And I think I'm just learning, I know Taylor asked that amazing question about when I'm feeling like I just want to lay in bed. It's probably because you need to lay in bed. And so I'm really doing the work right now and of slowing down enough to find, I call it the sacred pause, like the sacred pause where you actually make decisions that serve you and set boundaries and like, don't just say yes to everything and then be like, oh shit. The sacred pause where I get to actually ask myself, what do I need? And that's, with Self-Care Society, I think that's a big part of why we created it, was like, how do we hold the space for people to have just a space to come and ask themselves what they need? Because it's not that we don't know what to do. We're just not doing it. We're not carving out the space. So there was a gap I felt in the consistency and the impact, integration.
Love that. When you said the therapy, what was the therapy you did with that woman, with your body?
It's called ISTDP. It stands for Intensive Short-Term Dynamic Psychotherapy. She's in LA. She's awesome. And
what's her name? Do you have a name?
Reiko, Reiko Joseph. She's in the Pasadena area, but I think she has she might have an office on the west side too.
Okay.
It's been years, but she was just incredible. And
wow.
ISTDP. And I don't know. I've heard amazing things about EMDR. I am just starting with someone who does that. Like I love therapy. I love coaching. I always want to work with someone, no matter, it's just, I think it's really impactful. My partner's in therapy. Like, it's just, I think it's so important. And so that was really powerful. I've done CBT. I've done a lot of different therapies, and different support groups, I always like to sort of reiterate that we don't have, therapies are expensive and not everyone has access to that. But I've also taken away some of the most powerful things from just that community care, right? Whether it's the recovery meetings or being in community, practicing self-care, whatever it is. I mean, you guys have an amazing Facebook community, that sort of community.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. I'm excited to get to know her. Okay. Last call for questions. We have one more here from Reese. Did you ever experience a kind of self-care bypassing, like spiritual bypassing, where you avoid deeper issues by hyper-focusing on self-care? And if so, how do you recommend avoiding that?
I think I love that question. That's a good question. I think it depends on what you're doing. For me, it's really hard to avoid deeper issues when my self-care is meditation or like journaling or these things that are literally me digging into me. So I think those tools for me are like, if I'm avoiding those, I guess, then I would say yes. If I was just like working out and sleeping and like if my self-care was all like do, and it wasn't including therapy and being self-inquisitive with myself and journaling and prayer. I think the listening piece, I always say, like, our answers are inside us. Our answers are inside us. We just don't create the space to listen. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges. And so if I'm not actively listening and in every moment of silence, I'm like scrolling Instagram or I'm being busy, then yeah, for sure. I think it's really easy to do. So I think it's just focusing on the more internal practices and like giving space for that too.
Love that. That's beautiful. Love that. Okay.
You have such wise, amazing people here.
I know. It's insane. You should see, like, whenever they ask it, like, that's the whole thing. Like, we do this exercise. It's like the most beautiful, elaborate, like stunning, thoughtful, loving days. And like, whenever they write anything, our community, it's like the most beautifully well thought out, like insane. It's just like insane. But this was like incredible. You actually, I just want to thank you. You really inspired me in the way that we show up to events and the way that we present and the way that we like, I don't know. I just feel really inspired. We've done a lot of these and I haven't left this inspired to like recommit to my routine for self-care, recommit to the worthiness of having a self-care routine. And then also too, just like the way that you show up on presentations and the way that you show up for this kind of thing was just amazing. I felt like you did such a good job. It was so thorough and actionable and relatable and all this stuff. So I want to thank you. I'm sure everyone else does too. Can you tell everyone about Self-Care Society before we go?
I would love to. So Self-Care Society, we actually started about 6 months ago. It has been something that has been on my heart for years, and quarantine just gave us the opportunity to build it out. The thing, like I was saying, the thing I was seeing the most is that people knew kind of what to do. They just weren't doing it, with self-care. And so we took it and we sort of built the Peloton of self-care. So it's like live classes. They're only 30 minutes long. Every class is different. We have a lot of different guides, amazing guides, Coach Carrie, and then Gabby Lucia, who does inner healing. And it's just incredible. We take you through different exercises. Like you'll do like a 3-minute meditation, and you'll write a future biography, and you'll organize the day for tomorrow, so it's intentional, and you'll do inner child work. You know, every teacher has a different style, but we come together in community, and it's a big community. And then, you know, there's different tools. You have the digital self-care checklist that I showed, and just other people. It's just a safe space. Like you're probably going to cry in most classes, and some that cry or laugh or whatever, but it's just really beautiful. And I felt like I took a lot of what I learned in the recovery rooms of just like having a safe space for people to show up exactly as they are and just be vulnerable and real, and like be like, this is what's going on with me. And I feel like everyone deserves that community and that space. And I also I knew for me, like, you know, there's all this knowledge out there, but if I don't show up live to something, it's rare that I'm going to watch a replay, right? And maybe all of you know that because you're here live, which is amazing. Like if I sign up, I want to be live. So anywho, that was a part of it. And we do 2 weeks free. And I know you guys have a link, so I think you're going to send it out, but we're doing a 14-day free trial for anyone who wants to try it. And I'm doing a session on Sunday that's like a whole monthly planning session. So would love to see anyone there.
I mean, truly always inspiring us just in how intentional you are whenever, you know, you create something. It's really inspiring, and such a good reminder as, you know, you all here create your thing. And I'm excited to try Self-Care Society. So
Me too.
We'll send you the link in the email to follow along with this recording. But I have an Asana schedule to set up, so
I have like a salt bath to get to, so we could probably
Please.
part of my self-care is I know I'm gonna do it all.
Tag me in all your systems. Like that's the sexiest thing you can tag me in, is like just like a nice calendar, like a colored planner page.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we're all feeling inspired and good. We will send you this recording tomorrow with the link. We love you all very much. Danika, we love you guys very much. Have a good one and go on with that self-care.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Bye guys.
Bye. Happy birthday, Lauren.